Hi, my name's Gareth and I make videos to help people pass the IELTS test. Now in this video we're going to look at task 1 of the IELTS writing test. And in particular we're going to look at how to write an introduction for this part of the test. Now in your answer you're going to begin with an introduction. So you want to start well, and there's some specific things that you need to show the examiner you can do in this paragraph. So let's get started. Now, in this paragraph, the main idea is that you're showing off the skill of paraphrasing, which basically means you're going to take the question and the sentence you get in the question that describes whatever image you get, whether it's a graph or a bar chart or a table, and you take that sentence and you're changing some of the vocabulary in that sentence, and also maybe even trying to change the structure and the grammar of the sentence. This is not really an easy thing to do, but it's something that's quite achievable with practice. And writing a really good introduction, maybe when you see a good introduction, it looks like it's easy, but really it takes a lot of practice and hard work to be able to be good at writing a clear introduction. So what I want to do now is just show you a question from the task 1 of the IELTS writing test, and I'll show you an introduction which paraphrases really well and shows a really high level of writing. So let's look at this question. You can see that it's a line graph, and you can see the sentence above the image that says the graph below shows the average daily spend of 3 categories of international visitor to New Zealand from 1997 to 2017. And then under that, of course, there's the line graph. Now, in this situation, the line graph is not too important. Remember, in the introduction, you're not going to be giving any details on the figures or the changes that you can see in the graph. All you really need here is the sentence above the graph. You need to read that sentence and really understand what it's saying. And then your job is to paraphrase that sentence. So let me show you a really good example of an introduction for this task. Here it is. So let's read through it, kind of the full introduction first, and then I can go into some details and explain exactly what we're doing here. So the line graph compares 3 types of traveller to New Zealand between 1997 and 2017 in terms of their average daily expenditure. So hopefully you can see there that the introduction is really just repeating what is written in that sentence above the line graph. It's not really saying anything different, but it is including all the important detail in that sentence. We don't want to miss anything out. Now let's go through the introduction kind of part by part and think about what we're doing here. You can see we begin the introduction by writing the words the line graph. So we're changing things slightly, but really keeping some things the same. Now, of course, we're repeating the word graph and the graph, but we're adding a bit of detail, which I guess we need to see in the actual image here. But we've said the line graph rather than just saying the graph. I mean, it's not a massive thing, but we're showing we have that vocabulary and we understand that it's a line graph, it's not a bar chart or a pie chart or a table. So that's an important thing maybe to do first. Now, you'll also see that we've taken out a word, which is the word below. Now, of course, when you're writing your answer on your answer sheet, the graph is not going to be below what you're writing. So that's not a good word to use in your introduction. So that's the first thing, really quite simple there. The second thing here is that in the sentence on the task, it says shows. The graph below shows. Now, what we've done here is change that verb from shows to compares. The line graph compares. We've kept the same grammar. We're using the present simple tense. Same verb form there. We've got the S on the end of the verb, but we've changed the word show to compare. And I think this is even really better and more specific than the word show, because what the graph is doing is comparing. It's comparing 3 categories of visitor. So I think compares there is a great word to use in this case. When you have some kind of line graph or bar chart, then compares is really the best verb to go for, and you will rarely see this in the task statement. So it's a good one to remember. So that's what we've done so far. We've changed the graph below shows to the line graph compares. So we've shown some paraphrasing here. We've changed some of the vocabulary. What we've done next is a bit more complex because the structure changes slightly. So in the task statement, it says the average daily spend of 3 categories. What we've done here is change the position of 3 categories and put it after the verb compares. So we have 3 types. Also, we've changed the vocabulary, you can see here. Instead of writing categories and just copying a word from the question, we've changed it to types. So again, that's showing a wide range of vocabulary and the ability to paraphrase. Obviously 3 we can't change, we can't paraphrase the number 3, so we've kept that the same. Also, instead of saying categories of international visitor, we've changed international visitor to traveller. And it's quite clear here that traveller can be a synonym of visitor, and also the idea that they're international, maybe it's really unnecessary to write that word. Let's make it more concise and we can take out any information that isn't necessary. I think it's unnecessary just because it's obvious if they're a traveller to New Zealand, then they're coming from somewhere else, so international. So we've changed the structure there slightly, and we've left what they're measuring, the average daily spend, to later in the introduction. We've copied the country. There's no other way of writing this particular country. Maybe other countries you can write them in different ways, but New Zealand, we're just keeping the same. So traveller to New Zealand. Then again, you'll see after this, we've given the range of time, which in the task statement is at the end of the sentence. But here we've moved it to somewhere in the middle of the sentence. And we've written between 1997 and 2017. Now, in the task statement, it says from 1997 to 2017. This would be a really great way of changing these ranges of time, changing from to between and to and. There are, of course, other ways to write a range of time, but this is a really good way to remember and quite easy, really. So we've done that, and because we've left what they're measuring to the end of the introduction, we've used the phrase in terms of. Now this helps us to change the structure. We can put the country somewhere near the beginning of the sentence and then show what we're measuring at the end of the sentence by using this phrase, in terms of. It's a great one to remember to change the structure of your sentence a bit. So we've said in terms of their average daily expenditure. So we have also changed a few things here as well, because in the question it says the average daily spend. Now, quite a useful thing we've done here is maybe increase the cohesion of this sentence by using a pronoun, their, to refer to the traveller at the beginning of the sentence. So we've done that and we've added that, and that's something that you don't see in the task statement. But then again, we've changed one word here. Average daily expenditure. Well, we've copied average and daily. I don't think there's many ways to really change that vocabulary, but the word spend we can change. It's interesting here because actually they've used the word spend as a noun in the task statement. Most people are used to using the word spend as a verb. So that's something quite interesting. But also in the graph, at the title of the graph, you can see they're using spending as the noun, which is maybe a bit more common. But I don't want to copy either of those words because there's another word you can use instead, and that's the word expenditure. So that's what we've written, average daily expenditure. So there we go, that's the end of that introduction. Now it's nice and clear, straight to the point, we're not missing any important details here. This is one thing that people often do, is forget some of the important details from the task statement. So let's read through it again so it's nice and clear. The line graph compares 3 types of traveller to New Zealand between 1997 and 2017 in terms of their average daily expenditure. So that's an example of really good paraphrasing. We're changing vocabulary, but we're also changing the structure of the sentence. It's pretty high-level paraphrasing here. Now, if you feel like this is a bit difficult, then you can actually start by just direct word-by-word paraphrasing, which means just changing some of the vocabulary and keeping the same structure. As that gets easier and easier, then you can start to mess with the structure of the sentence and try using some different techniques. One great one to use if you've got a country in a graph is the word or the words in terms of, to change the structure. And this shows you a nice example of that. So that's it. That's the introduction and how we should be writing it. Obviously, in later parts of your answer to this task, you'll be giving more detail and describing changes and giving actual numbers in your answer. But for the introduction, this isn't necessary. You need to keep it simple and then gradually progress through the details of what the graph is showing you. The introduction doesn't need to be any longer than this. It's nice and simple, and then you'll move on to the next paragraph, which will be a bit longer and maybe slightly more complex, choosing information and looking at trends in the graph. But we're not looking at that today. In this video, I just wanted to show you how to write a decent introduction and give you a nice example of that. So there we go. Hopefully this video was really useful for you and you can go away and practice using this paraphrasing technique. And if it was useful and you did enjoy the video, then don't forget to click the like button. Also, if you don't want to miss out on any future videos on similar topics or other parts of the IELTS test, then remember to click the subscribe button. So there we go. Thanks for watching, guys, and see you again in the next video.